Every golfer chasing distance knows that feeling, right?
Oh,
You
yeah.
swing with everything you have, the ball launches, it looks great, and then it's like it just hits a wall 200 yards out.
Sits down hard, zero roll. It's the worst.
Exactly. And, we're always told that distance is just about bruise strength, swing speed. But the data, it tells a much richer and, frankly, a much smarter story.
It really does.
So we're diving into this stack of sources you provided, some research articles, optimization guides, that really separate those short, inconsistent drives from the long, consistent bombs.
Ones that actually help you score.
Right. This isn't about brute force. It's about perfecting the physics of launch. Okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
Our mission today is to turn all that confusion that golfers feel about driver performance, the endless fiddling with loft and tee height, into a clear, measurable strategy. We're looking at your sources to understand how optimizing just two numbers, launch angle and spin rate, is the absolute secret to unlocking your maximum distance potential.
Right now, without spending hours in the gym.
Exactly.
And that's the core thesis of all the data. It's a huge shift in perspective for a lot of amateur golfers.
It really is.
The source material, it just emphasizes that while swing speed is absolutely the engine,
Of course.
true distance relies on a really complex, sensitive interaction between that speed, your launch angle, and your spin rate.
The big three.
And the key insight here is that launch data gives you a totally measurable way to improve. It eliminates all that frustrating guesswork.
Yeah, no, we're just feeling it.
Right. So before we get to the actual numbers, we need to set the foundation. We'll define those two critical factors, launch angle and spin rate, so we all know what we're measuring.
Okay.
And then, crucially, we'll look at the precise target zones you need for max distance, depending entirely on how fast you swing the club.
Okay, let's start with launch angle, or LA. This one seems pretty straightforward.
It is. It's just physics.
It's the vertical angle the ball leaves the club face, right?
Yeah.
Dictates the initial trajectory, how high it goes, and your sources are clear. This is not just about the loft stamped on your driver.
Oh, not at all.
It's heavily influenced by where you put the ball in your stance, the actual loft, and critically, your angle of attack.
Yes. Are you hitting up, down, or level on the ball? Hitting up on it increases the dynamic loft at impact.
Which increases the launch angle.
And hitting down decreases it.
So why does getting this specific number right matter so much?
Well, because launch angle is your first chance to maximize carry distance.
Okay.
If you launch it too low, you don't use the ball's potential airtime. It's on the ground too fast. If you launch it too high, you risk pushing all that energy straight up instead of forward.
Especially if you pair it with too much spin.
And that's the perfect transition to the second variable, spin rate, measured in revolutions per minute, or RPM.
Right.
Spin is what generates lift. I mean, without backspin, a golf ball would basically just knuckle and drop out of the sky.
So you need it. It's not the enemy.
Absolutely necessary.
So spin is the lift. It keeps the ball flying. But there's this huge downside if you have too much of it. Can you unpack that trade-off?
Yeah, the trade-off is drag. If you generate too much spin, the ball balloons.
That's the word you always hear.
Right. Think of it like putting air brakes on the front of the ball. It just fights its way through the air. It loses its forward velocity, and that just kills your carry distance and, crucially, your roll.
And the sources say this is the single biggest distance killer for most average golfers.
By far. But on the other hand, if you have too little spin, the ball doesn't have enough lift. It's like a rock skipping on water. It just falls out of the air way too quickly.
It just dives.
It dives. The trajectory just isn't sustainable.
That tension makes total sense. You need enough lift from spin to keep it airborne, but not so much that the drag slows it down.
Exactly.
What's fascinating here is the sources highlight that spin rate is influenced so much by strike location. Like where you hit it on the face can matter even more than the loft setting itself.
Absolutely. The ultimate goal here is getting that perfect launch and spin combination that is specifically tailored for your swing speed. It's not one size fits all.
Okay, so now that we've defined the variables and we know the painful consequences of getting them wrong, we need the solution, the actual numbers.
Right. Let's move from the why to the what to do.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because the sources give us this clear, systematic chart based on swing speed.
Yeah, this is the map.
It is. These numbers tell you definitively if your current driver is helping you or actually hurting your potential.
So we can break down the entire golfing population into, 5 distinct bands? Let's start with the slowest speeds first. Their challenge is the greatest.
Yeah, maximizing airtime when you don't have a ton of velocity.
Exactly. So for golfers swinging between, say, 75 and 85 miles per hour, your driver has to work incredibly hard. This group needs the highest launch angle and the highest spin rate. The target is 14 to 16 degrees of launch.
Wow, that high.
And a pretty hefty 2750 to 3000 RPM of spin. You need every single revolution you can get to fight gravity.
So high and high. That makes sense. You need that lift when you don't have blazing speed.
The club is doing the heavy lifting for you. Precisely.
Okay, next group.
Let's jump up to the mid speeds. This is 85 to 95 miles per hour. They target slightly lower numbers.
So we start to see the trend.
You do. It's 13 to 15 degrees of launch angle, and the spin comes down to 2500 to 2750 RPM. The trend is set. As speed goes up, the required launch and spin start to come down.
Okay, I have to pause there because this is the part that I think is so counterintuitive for people.
It is.
If I'm swinging faster, shouldn't I be able to keep the ball in the air longer? Why do I have to reduce my spin? It feels like I should still want 3,000 RPM, just with more speed.
This is the bedrock of what we have to solve here. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the faster you swing, the less spin you need to generate lift.
Right.
And more importantly, the more damaging drag becomes if that spin is too high. At 100 miles per hour, 3,000 RPM of spin causes massive drag. That's your classic balloon shot that just stalls and lands soft with no roll.
So the speed itself is creating lift.
Exactly. The higher speed dynamically creates its own lift, so all that extra backspin just puts the brakes on in midair. You're fighting the very force you're trying to create.
That is a great way to put it. You're trading lift for penetration through the air. Okay, let's get to the next two groups because that reduction must get pretty aggressive now.
It does. For the mid-high speeds, that's 95 to 105 miles per hour, you need big adjustment. You're targeting 12 to 14 degrees of launch and 2250 to 2500 RPM of spin.
That spin window is getting tighter.
It is. If you're in this band and you're still spinning it at 2800, you are just throwing away 10 to 15 yards of total distance immediately.
Rough.
Then we get to the true high speeds, pushing 105 to 115. Now you have to aggressively reduce spin to stop that ballooning.
Lower, more piercing flight.
Exactly. 11 to 13 degrees launch and a really tight spin window of 2000 to 2250 RPM.
And finally, the pros, the 115 plus players.
These guys need the lowest targets of all to maximize that distance and get that penetrating ball flight. We're talking 10 to 12 degrees of launch and spin as low as 1800 to 2200.
That table is gold, but it really demands action. I mean, I know so many golfers who went straight from a 10.5 degree driver to a 9 degree because that's what the pros use.
Right.
And then they wonder why their distance just vanished. This chart explains exactly why that was a mistake for an 85 mile per hour swing.
It's prescriptive. It forces you to match your equipment to your engine. But, knowing the numbers is step one. Step two is actually making the changes.
And the good news is these sources give us really concrete ways to do that.
Yeah, actionable stuff, both in your setup and your equipment.
Okay, let's focus on those adjustments. Let's say I'm a slower swinger in that 80 mile per hour group, and my launch angle is always too low, maybe 12 degrees. How do I get it up?
The sources point to four main methods. The first two are just simple setup tweaks.
Easy stuff.
Super easy. One, tee the ball higher. That encourages an upward strike. Two, move the ball a little bit more forward in your stance, maybe half a ball.
Okay.
The third one is a key setup tip that gets overlooked but is so critical for hitting up on the ball.
What's that?
Tilt your spine away from the target at address. By tilting your body, you automatically set your swing arc to catch the ball on the upswing. It's a huge factor.
That spine tilt is a massive free adjustment. I love that. And the last point.
If all those setup changes still don't get you into that 14 to 16 degree zone, then you have to look at the equipment.
Get a higher lofted driver.
Use a higher lofted driver. Maybe a 10.5 degree set to 11.5 instead of fighting a 9 degree club that's just too aggressive for your speed.
Okay, let's flip it. What about reducing spin? Because that's the challenge for faster swingers.
Or for anyone who hits it low on the face, that's a huge spin generator.
Right. How do we kill that excess spin?
We start with the simplest equipment fix. The golf ball.
Oh, good one.
Use a lower spinning ball. I mean, manufacturers design balls specifically to limit driver spin. That's like quick 200 or 300 RPM reduction right there.
Done.
Then we focus on strike mechanics. And this is that counterintuitive point again.
Hitting up on it.
You have to check your angle of attack. The sources confirm that hitting up on the ball is what helps reduce spin, not increase it.
Okay, help me with the physics on that again. Why does hitting up reduce spin. It feels backward.
It's all about the vertical gear effect. When you hit up on the ball with a modern driver, you're catching it slightly higher on the club face.
Mm-hmm.
And when you strike the ball above the geometric center of the face, that creates a low spin effect. If you hit down, you catch it low on the face, and that creates a ton of backspin.
So hitting up is the goal for distance and for lowering spin.
For most players, yes, and that leads right to the third point, strike location.
Where on the face?
You need to be closer to the center, or ideally, slightly above the center. A high face strike is a spin killer. And finally, if you're a really high-speed player, you might need to consider a driver head or a shaft that's designed for low spin.
Okay, so we have the map, the target data, and we have the compass, the specific adjustments.
Right.
Now, how do we practice with this knowledge? If you have a launch monitor, even a basic one, what should you actually track? Because just beating balls isn't practicing with purpose.
And that raises an important question. We have to move away from mindless range time. Now that you have target numbers, you track the metrics that confirm you're hitting them.
Okay, so the sources highlight 4 key metrics to monitor. Number 1 is ball speed.
Right. How fast the ball is traveling after impact. It's the measure of how efficient your strike was.
So if your ball speed goes up but your club speed stays the same, you hit it better.
You improved your strike quality, pure and simple.
Number 2.
Launch angle and spin rate. These are your diagnostic tools. Are they matching the ideal ranges from that chart we just broke down?
So you're constantly checking.
Constantly. If you're a 100-mile-per-hour swinger and your launch is 16 degrees, you know immediately you have too much loft, or you're teeing it too high, or something's off.
Makes sense. Number 3 is carry distance.
This is the immediate result of getting your launch and spin right, how far the ball flew in the air.
And finally, number 4, total distance.
Which includes the rollout. And this is the key for on-course performance.
Right.
You need a ball flight that carries a long way, but also one that's penetrating and lands with enough forward velocity to get that valuable roll. If your spin is right, you'll get roll.
If it's too high, you won't. It's that simple.
That's it.
This whole strategy, it just lets you avoid those common, costly mistakes like picking the wrong loft.
Mm-hmm.
And it confirms that simple setup changes, like that spine tilt or just tee height, can lead to massive measurable distance gains.
5, 10, even 20 yards, depending on how far off you are to begin with. The whole message is really empowering. By understanding and applying this data, you don't have to swing like a pro.
You just have to optimize your launch conditions like one.
Exactly. It turns practice from this mindless hitting into practicing with a clear purpose and measurable feedback. You know exactly which numbers need to change and how to change them.
Absolutely. We define launch angle and spin rate. We explained the inverse relationship between speed and spin. We gave the exact targets for 5 different swing speeds.
And the actionable steps.
From tee height and ball placement to understanding gear effect.
Mm-hmm.
So what does this all mean? It means distance is a formula you can solve. It's not just a strength contest. You now have the blueprint from these sources to maximize every yard you can.
And the sources really emphasize using smart tools to speed this up, to analyze your metrics. We've shown that the goal is to keep your launch and spin in that very narrow ideal zone.
Right.
So consider this. If your current setup is consistently producing, say, 500 RPM too much spin, you are wasting so much energy.
It's like putting too much load on a small engine.
Perfect analogy. So how much more valuable is 1 minute analyzing your launch data to see that versus an hour just blindly hitting balls on the range, hoping for a change?
It's night and day.
The knowledge we've discussed provides the map. Now you just need to apply the right analysis to your own journey for more distance.